So, another random video. For the past few months, I've had a hard time getting stuff done, be it programming or game dev projects or just trying to 100% Tears of the Kingdom, but the biggest problem for me is game development. I mean, look at how much dust I kicked up over the last year or two. Naturally, I booted up Unreal Engine anyway, because this time I plan to get things done in this Devlog series. So I went ahead and created an empty project since a template would only take up space. And in no time, I had myself a nice clean slate. Of course, before we start with the actual game development process, we need to pitch the idea first. So let's pay a visit to the photorealistic whiteboard. The idea I had in mind consists of two parts. The first is that you have to steal valuable items from high security places by controlling a robot spider, which is based off of a certain tutorial by Polyfjord. After you steal the aforementioned item, the spider bot retreats to a very realistic-looking escape ship. However, that brings us to part 2. Here, you have to put your flight skills to the test by flying across different surfaces at high speeds while trying to avoid a number of tricky obstacles. That isn't to say all things aren't unsurpassable by ship, though. When you are met by things like a laser gate, you will need to deploy the spider bot again to shut it off. Here, you will need to overcome puzzles and obstacles inconveniently placed throughout the mechanism. This can include timed crushers or lever-controlled laser gates you need to deactivate. Here, you will need to climb walls and/or jump off of them to hit the lever and continue forward. After you do this, you can deactivate the main control mechanism, effectively shutting down the gate and allowing you to jump back into the ship so you may continue zooming to the next level. And now we have ourselves a good concept to start with. Of course, I may add or change things later on. With that out of the way, I went ahead and created the plane object, or in this case, the escape ship. Then I proceeded to block out a very basic shape for the ship. I made a lot of changes here and there off camera, if you will, but this montage should give a general idea. The movement is handled using a simple projectile component, which automatically handles things like velocity and collision. I also added some functionality for the event that you hit something, kind of like this.
Audio.
Oh no! Anyway, last week...
I then added some logic for cursor-based movement using a line trace, which I eventually realized was completely unnecessary, so I scrapped that later on. And in case you were wondering, I used a homing target for the mouse movement. This proved very useful in the long run, as you can see here. Then, to add some complement, I added some dynamic field of view controls based on the ship's velocity and an interpolation node to smoothen it out. As a result, we get a better feeling of speed, the only drawback being that the controls are much more sensitive than before. After some tweaking, I proceeded to make a more complex map filled with obstacles you need to dodge. This proved a fairly simple task thanks to Unreal Engine 5's built-in modeling tool. I also attempted to fix the sensitivity by multiplying the rotation by a smaller number, which did have some effect. The driftiness was also fixed later on by increasing the homing velocity. All that was left to do now is, of course, this. Now the map is done. For now. To make my spider work, I created a suitable curved surface for it. Then I made a blocked-out spider object, which I will iterate on in another video. Next, I had to handle input. Since I wanted to keep the setup fairly simple, I made a macro that takes two Boolean inputs, that being the negative and positive axes respectively. Then I grabbed the A and D keys and mapped them to the correct inputs, so this way the spider can move left and right. After that, I used a line trace in the relative downward direction to handle rotation, along with a series of checks to make sure the spider doesn't get too close or far from the given surface. Finally, I implemented a check where in the event that the spider is not on a surface, it falls downward to add the effect of gravity. As a result, we get this. Lastly, I tried to add the jumping mechanic, which ended up being very broken, and I didn't have the patience to fix it, so I may do that in another video instead. Besides all that, our setup is complete, which wraps up this video. So on that note, thanks for watching. If you have any ideas of what I should do next, please be sure to comment down below. I would also appreciate some feedback and critique, as that will help me improve things in the future. See you next time!